It's real talk. It's real talk. Yeah. Welcome to Real Talk. Real talk. With your host, Chip Washington. It's real talk. It's real talk. It's real talk.
And here we go. Here we go on this Monday evening in the city. And yeah, it's a lot warmer this Monday evening than it was last Monday evening for sure. But you know what? We're here. We feel good about it. And we hope that you're out there as well. It is 6 o'clock straight up, which means it is time for an all-new edition of Real Talk Memphis. I am your humble host. My name is Chip Washington. Glad to be here. Thank the Lord for getting me down here safe and sound, and I hope that he has done the same for you. We're going to have a really good show for you tonight. I hope that you stay tuned, and you'll learn a few things, I'm sure, before it's all said and done. How many, let's see, I was sort of thinking, had some thoughts going there just a second ago as to how you can get this fine piece of radio broadcasting. Well, you can catch us right now, live, 91.7 on your FM dial. That will be WYXR. You can also catch us on the WYXR app. You can catch us on the TuneIn app as well, all live. And, of course, we are live streaming this evening, which means you can catch us on Facebook Live on my page and check things out. And when the show posts in a couple of days, you can find us on YouTube. And we are a podcast. And as a podcast, when the show posts, you can catch us on any of the podcast platforms out there. You know, like I said, again, I always appreciate anybody who checks this show out because we work hard to try to bring you a fine presentation each and every week. Speaking of, we're going to start a little bit early this evening because I have a lot to get to. My guests include Michelle McKissack and Amber Huett-Garcia. They are two of the Memphis and Shelby County School Board members, the two in particular, who fought very hard to exercise some reason with their colleagues in terms of retaining Dr. Fagans. That did not work. Of course, a week ago, about Tuesday, last Tuesday, we know that Dr. Fagans was terminated by a vote of 6-3 by several of the board members. The two I mentioned, Michelle and Amber, basically fought against this from the very beginning. It seemed like it was a blindside attempt. They wanted to come up with some solutions or reasons as to why the board should slow down, take a breath, take their time to try to figure this whole thing out. But apparently 6 of the members decided that they knew better. And when the final vote was cast in another very contentious school board meeting, the vote was 6-3 in favor of termination. Now, this has caused, obviously, a lot of controversy in and around the city and the county. Dr. Fagans says that she is going to file suit against this decision. She has retained the services of a new attorney, so it's on now. And if that wasn't enough, we heard early this morning from the leadership of the Tennessee State House. What did they have to say? Well, I'm glad you asked. Cameron Sexton, who is the Speaker of the House, said this morning on a local radio show that the state is planning to take over this school district. They are going to be drafting legislation to do just that. And part of that plan would be to bring in several new individuals to act as school board members. I said bring in. I didn't say elect. The current 9-member board has been elected by the citizens, which in this particular instance didn't seem to matter a whole lot to them in terms of the decision. That's just Chip, okay? But the bottom line is they want to bring in some new members to govern things, to make the decisions, and maybe even at some point move forward with a new superintendent. Speaking of that, there was an interim superintendent named at the meeting last Tuesday night. His name is Dr. Rod Richmond. And of course, again, this has just been a huge mess. And now the state has threatened, as they had some years ago, to take over if they don't feel like the current board is handling things the way they should handle them. So they're going to bring in some members if the bill is drafted in that way. They will oversee what is going on. Of course, the important thing to note here is that they will be responsible to who? Not to you and not to your children. They will be responsible to the folks up in Nashville. They will report to the folks up in Nashville. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a bad decision. Now, I would say be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. And in this case, there's a lot to all of this. That is why I wanted to have these two ladies with me. They should be checking in, any moment now. And I wanted to start the interview a little bit early. We'll do things a little bit early tonight because I wanted to give them ample opportunity to log in and to check in and to be able to express from the inside out what they were feeling in particular as pertains to that evening. Again, it was very surrealistic. And again, most of the public sentiment, if not all of the public sentiment, it was for the superintendent to be retained. But there was no conversation. I don't know that there was much conversation at all. It seemed like they had their minds made up, the 5 or 6 that were involved in all of this, with no negotiation, no anything, no chance to even have a conversation to come up with a plan. I know Amber came up with a plan, that she felt was, that all the board members could get behind, which is basically slow down and let us, if we have issues with the superintendent in certain various ways, this would give us a chance to work with her to be able to see if we could rectify that. There seems to be a lot of surprises in terms of all of this, and an attorney was also involved in this, Robert Spence, who gave as Michelle called it, almost like a phone book size of documents, literally an hour before the meeting started. So I see them both right now, and we're going to go to them right now. And I'm so happy that they decided to give us a little time this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, school board members Michelle McKissack and Amber Huett-Garcia. Ladies, it is great to see you. I see Michelle is still adjusting, getting everything together there. Can you guys hear me okay? Amber, can you hear me okay?
I can. Hi, Chip. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Michelle, can you hear me okay?
I can, Chip. I was like, still a mom despite all the madness around me. And my daughter's like, "Where's Dad? I'm here by the pool waiting, and he's not here." So that's what I was dealing with, a last minute crisis.
Hey, you're being a mom. I got that. That is no problem at all. But listen, first of all, thank you both so much for taking the time out of your schedules to come and join me this evening for what I think is going to be a very insightful conversation, as I said at the beginning, from the inside out. First of all, let's go back to last Tuesday. We all saw it. You were inside of the meeting room when all of this happened. Eventually, 6 of your colleagues decided that the services of the superintendent were no longer needed. And I want to get from each of you kind of your thought process that evening. Amber, go first and tell me kind of what you were thinking as all of this was unfolding.
Yeah, I was hopeful going in. I always have a lot of optimism about, being able to work together and address the issues. I had reached out to all of my colleagues ahead of time and said, I want to bring the best possible version of this, and didn't get any feedback. So I kind of went in expecting maybe they'll have something to offer. Maybe they just needed a little bit more time. I felt, and I think I still feel disappointed. There's no solace in the headlines that are coming out about state intervention, about sort of the things that have unfolded, about the really confidence that people have in Memphis Shelby County schools. Like we want to be we want to be a place where you feel really great about sending your kids, and the leadership that we demonstrated on Tuesday was not a great TV ad.
yeah, that's kind of an understatement, to be sure. Michelle, take me into your mindset as that meeting unfolded and the eventual decision was made.
Well, Chip, I have to take you back to that initial first meeting, December 17th, and the day before that, on December 16th. And quite honestly, I was blindsided by the termination resolution. And when I found out about it, when it went public, and then ultimately when we discussed it on that Tuesday, and that's when I began, let's slow it down process at that moment in time. And that's when my colleague, Amber Huett-Garcia, Tamarcus Porter, another board member, at that time, we were saying, you know what, let's slow this down. This is all new. We weren't expecting this. And thankfully, at that time, the board chair, she aligned ourselves with what we were saying, let's slow down this process. And then fast forward to this month, during that time, Amber put in some great work and drafted a resolution. I certainly co-signed on with that, but it's just like the entire time since when I first got wind of this back in December, I wanted to slow it down and say, let's look at the issues that we did not have to get to the point of terminating the superintendent. I didn't believe then, I still don't believe that whatever their concerns were warranted being terminating the superintendent's contract. So that's just my whole process. And as far as today and the news that has dropped today, it's really sad. It's really sad that this is where we are, where you have the Speaker of the House talking about possibly taking over the school district. And this was completely avoidable. We invited this in, we meaning those who on the board wanted to terminate the resolution, terminate the contract of the superintendent against the will of pretty much everybody in the community.
Yeah, that was stunning to me, that the same people who elected all of you as commissioners on the Memphis and Shelby County School Board were completely ignored. Their voices were ignored, their wishes were ignored, and everything else. I'll get to the announcement that was made this morning by the Speaker of the House in a minute. But, you know, thinking about all of this, and I guess I want to ask both of you, how much were you kept in the loop? Now, Michelle, you did mention that when this first came up, you were blindsided, and I'm sure, Amber, you were as well. But even since the December meeting that this was brought up, from that moment to what happened on last Tuesday, how much conversation were you two involved in with the remainder of your school board members in really trying to determine what next steps would be? Either one of you. Go ahead, Em.
I think the what Michelle conveyed, sort of not knowing, I didn't know until after the special call meeting was posted with the termination item on there. We were not consulted, or I'll speak for myself. Our chair hired outside counsel with no input from me, at least, and until the special call agenda was posted for this recent Tuesday, maybe that Friday before, I actually didn't have any knowledge of him putting together a report to share.
Wow.
And really question the wisdom of that. We did have an executive session about an hour before the vote that took place on Tuesday to be able to digest what was put together.
And I want to add to that, Amber, that executive session happened as a result of us reaching out to the board hired attorney saying, hey, can we take a look at this report? So that's how that came about.
So wait a minute. So wait a minute. So Michelle, you're saying that you had to reach out. You didn't even know about this report. You had to reach out to the board attorney to get a copy of this before the meeting even took place that night?
Well, what I'm saying is that had Amber and myself asked for an executive session, I texted the chair while we were on the phone with the attorney, trying to get an understanding of what was going on, what would transpire on Tuesday. And that's when we learned about that there was going to be any report. I certainly wasn't expecting it to be as robust and as thick as it was. And we did receive that just 1 hour before the meeting. And we were told literally, I'll give you a few minutes to look over it. And and then our 5:30 meeting started. So it's an understatement to say that I have certainly not been a part of that inner circle to have knowledge of what's going on to lead to the meetings that we've had.
That's just, again, as we hear more and more and more in reference to all of this. Now, let me shift the gears for a minute and talk about what comes next. Well, we heard from the Speaker of the House this morning, who said we are going to take over the Memphis and Shelby County School District, rendering them null and void. We are going to bring in members. Now, you all are elected officials, from what I know. And they're going to bring in some officials that are going to sort of lead the effort into trying to figure out what's next and moving forward in this process, even to the point of maybe even picking a new superintendent. Now, when you heard that, and Michelle, you were very vocal about this in the last meeting, saying that you spoke to Representative Mark White just a few hours before that meeting last Tuesday, in reference to what the plans might be. When you heard this, both of you, I don't think that maybe you were totally shocked, but what was your feeling, Michelle, when you heard this public pronouncement this morning, basically saying we're going to wipe out the entire school board and we're going to bring in our own folks and we're going to run this thing from up here in Nashville?
It was shocking. I thought I'd heard talk about perhaps other people being appointed to the board. I thought I'd heard resolutions regarding that. But as far as making the current board completely null and void, that certainly did take me off guard. I do recall the speaker saying a couple of weeks ago that there were a couple of nuclear options. I had no idea what those were, and clearly this must be one of them. So it was very shocking.
Amber?
Yeah, I think on Tuesday I even referenced having knowledge of a bill, and that this doesn't just affect Memphis Shelby County schools. They were looking the knowledge I had at the time was similar to what Michelle just conveyed, and that was appointment of one or more board members for districts with one or more priority schools. So that's more than Memphis Shelby County schools. I think the conversation has evolved to not just because of the vote that we took on Tuesday, but I think the entrenched point of view. I think what I keep observing is this commitment to saying we're right and the community is wrong has kept the fire burning. I have not seen the public let up. I was telling former McKissack, I said I have been recognized in public in the last 5 days more than I have in my 2.5 years combined. I have not gone to a single public place in the last week where somebody hasn't said, "Aren't you one of those school board members?" Because all eyes have been on us.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, state intervention, we want as much local control as possible. But at this point, it's not if, it's just what it looks like. So I think my leadership orientation is how can we partner with them and make it less us versus them, and really talk about the resources, kind of going back to what are the key issues that are keeping us from progress on academics, particularly literacy, getting our facilities in a state of art condition, thinking about the talent that we need to execute at safety. All of those things we need resources for, and the state can be a great partner on that. So how do they bring in the leaders there that are there and have an orientation to get into the root of what's going on? So the nuclear option is not the preferred one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, Chip, to add to everything that Amber said, I absolutely agree with.
Yeah.
But I think that this is also just born out of sheer frustration from the community. Like I said, the state didn't dump this on us. We invited the state in by the actions of board members who simply were not listening to the community. And I received hundreds of emails and people, approach me out in public saying, honestly, can it get any worse with the state stepping in? Because they feel like we elected these individuals and they are dismissing us completely. And that is so frustrating, is what's making the community so angry, why there was such an uproar at the meetings, the most recent meetings, is because no matter what was said, it's like, what you say does not matter one iota, and we're going to do what we want to do. And so people have kind of just thrown up their hands saying, we're not going to ever give up on this, but what's the difference? We have a board, or certainly members, a majority of the board, who will not listen to us. So it's just, what's the difference of having the state come in? And, we always want to maintain that local control because we're here.
Yeah.
But this is the frustration. The community is speaking out saying, this board is out of hand.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, and again, from the public perception, and I saw the meeting like everybody else did, and you lay witness to it up close and personal. I mean, there's a palatable anger and frustration and disappointment, and I think all those words fit in this particular situation. In reference to where we are right now, this is on Facebook Live, by the way, and one of my folks said that on their page, several people were in fact for the state coming in and taking over. I don't think, from what I have seen and what I have heard to this point, that people really understand what that means and what that will mean for this. I see both of you shaking your heads. What that would mean for this school district. I mean, they're going to try to control it from 200 miles away with people that they hand select to report to them to try to govern what goes on down here. That to me is something that people really need to grab hold to. I remember a few years back, they tried to take over the Achievement School District. The state took control of that, and that didn't turn out too well. Do people really understand, from both of you, do people really understand the magnitude of what this could look like if the state indeed does draft legislation to take over?
I think it's a matter of, for me, I think it's a yes and a no. I don't underestimate the community at all. They're really savvy. To hear the people that have come to the school board meetings and have spoken out, they are very intelligent, very aware of what's going on, which is why they took the time to stand out in the cold for hours on end to share their concerns with this board, and they were dismissed out of hand. So I don't underestimate the community at all. Maybe some don't realize the full wrath of what that can mean, the good, the bad, the ugly, but at the same time, right now, they also don't have a voice. So in a sense, it seems as if, this is what people are telling me, the state is listening to them more so than their local school board members and responding accordingly. So I am not going to dismiss that what people know or not know. I think this is uncharted territory. In fact, I don't think I know it's uncharted territory to have the largest school district in the state to be taken over by the city. But hopefully, we don't get to that point, that something can be worked out. But no matter what, like Amber mentioned, we've got to figure out how we can make whatever happens next work for the betterment of children. No matter what, that's my focus. I'm truly focused on what's going to be best for children, and listening to parents is a big part of that.
Has the focus been lost, Amber? Has the focus been lost, as Michelle just said, on what really matters here, which is the future of our children and our future of our children's education? Has this been lost in all of this, in your opinion?
I think I said maybe Wednesday, the amount of time that we've had to really remedy our own leadership takes focus off of kids, right? Every day that we have to spend in front of cameras, talking about how we're unwilling to work on the issues. I don't think it's great modeling for kids, but I do believe my colleagues care about kids. I think we've got to figure out how to get back to the basics, have better board governance. But I've had community members, to Michelle's point, so frustrated that they're crying, that they don't know what to do. They've called, they've texted, personal cell phones were on social media. The teachers had 88.3% saying they wanted to retain the superintendent, and it didn't feel like the overwhelming majority, the voice of which they elected and put on that stage, wasn't listening to them. But I think, Chip, you said something around the Achievement School District, which had very mixed results as being nice.
Yeah.
What I hope is if there is any level of intervention, that we don't we learn from those lessons, and we don't recreate the mistakes that we made, thinking about, and it was such a small subset of schools, so thinking about on a larger scale, what would this look like? So I really think we have to have thoughtful design, and the community, it feels unstable to them. We've had 4 superintendents in 6 years.
Yeah.
And they had a leader that they believed in. And then the leaders they represented felt like they were ignored. So there's a lot of work to do. But we really need to focus on the core issues of our students leaving our district ready for a career college.
Yeah. Let me, because my time is really flying here. Let me ask this question in reference to the new appointed interim superintendent of education, Dr. Rod Richmond. I'm curious as to how that came about, and if either of you were aware of that particular situation before they made that decision, or before that decision was made that night.
Well, I'll put it like this. The chair hired the PR firm without input from us.
Mm-hmm.
The chair hired the board attorney without input from us,
Mm-hmm.
meaning me. And so as far as now the interim superintendent, there was one name put forth by the chair. Amber and I put forth another person. And so, yeah, and that person was voted upon. I elected to just simply vote present, not voting. That's what you can do with parliamentary rules.
Right.
So, yeah, there was a pattern of not having much dialogue prior to certain selections being made.
Yeah, I'm assuming, Amber, you feel about the same way.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah.
I appreciated Dr. Whitelaw. I did put her name forward, and I felt strongly that she deserved that. She was a top 5 finalist in our last superintendent search. And I think she recognized the room, and really, in a spirit of unity, did see that she didn't have the votes. I think potentially getting the same feeling we all had, that this was potentially already the vote, the die had been cast.
Yeah.
And so not wanting to have one more opportunity to be divided. I thought it was very graceful and classy that that she didn't accept the nomination, because I do think she was trying to end us on a peaceful note. But I do want to say publicly that I thought she would have been an excellent interim. But we will support whoever's in the seat.
Yeah. Listen, I have to move on here, but I'm really grateful for both of you, and I know that the public is grateful for both of you because you fought tirelessly for this. There's a way to do things, and many people feel like this was not the way to do things. Obviously the saga continues. We don't know what's going to happen up in Nashville. We don't know what the future holds in reference to all of this, but I want to say to both of you, I commend you, and I commend your efforts on behalf of our children, which is the fundamental point in all of this. Michelle, were you going to say? Do you want to say something before we got? I was looking at you. I didn't know.
Sometimes, Chip, I think you have to kind of read between the lines of what is not being said by us, and I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I possibly can.
I noticed that
about all of this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That is just all. But you wrapped it up beautifully by saying what's best for children. This is really frustrating to me as a product of the school district, as 4 children who have gone through the school district. My daughter is currently in 8th grade. That we are not talking about children. It is incredibly frustrating. And
Yeah.
I want to get back to the business of focusing on what's best for children, not vendors, not contractors, not any of that, but really helping children to learn to read and to give them that opportunity to do whatever they want to do in life, whether it's follow a career, go on to college, whatever it is.
Amen to that. Well, listen, thank you both, Michelle McKissack and Amber Huett-Garcia. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate your efforts, and we'll be watching it real closely, and we'll stay in tune as well. But thank you both for being with me tonight. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for having.
Okay, you guys talk at the same time, but thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, we need to take a break. We're a little behind, but not too much. But I really appreciate the ladies for coming on tonight. This was it's a robust conversation, absolutely, to be sure. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue. And for Mauricio Calvo, who checked in and sent me a text, no, you're still on, my friend. Don't worry about that. Everything is good on this end. This is Real Talk Memphis. I'm Chip. A quick break, and we'll be right back.
If you like Real Talk, here's a way you can get involved. Do you have a show topic idea or suggestion? Want to be considered a guest or have a guest idea? Then send Chip a message on his Real Talk show page and you can be a part of the Real Talk experience. So as he always says, go out and tell somebody. We'll be right back.
Support for WYXR comes from Mammoth Live, presenting Cake, Friday, April 18th at Bank Plus Amphitheater. A tradition continues with Cake live in concert. Tickets are available now at Ticketmaster.com.
Get Real Talk on the TuneIn mobile app under WYXR, and he's now streaming live on Facebook. And you can also catch a rebroadcast on YouTube. Just put WYXR in the search box and hit subscribe. Now back to more Real Talk with Chip Washington.
And welcome back to Real Talk Memphis on this Monday evening. Chip Washington with you. Glad to have you out there as well. I see a lot of you were interested in the conversation that we just had a few moments ago. Listen, my next guest is someone who is an advocate for these young people. Absolutely no doubt about that. He is the founder and the executive director of Heal 901, a community activist to his heart and soul. Durell Cowan joins me. And my friend, it's good to see you. How you doing tonight?
Man, Chip, I'm doing well, all things considered, man. Hopefully you are too as well, Doc.
I am, my friend. Thank you for that. So listen, I know you were probably paying attention to what the ladies were talking about beforehand. I've seen you at those meetings. I saw you in December, and I saw and heard you last Tuesday evening. Your impressions on what happened, what you heard, what you saw. And again, the voice of the voice of the people and the will of the people didn't seem to matter too much for many members of that school board. What was your take on that?
Man, it was a bad look. It was a bad look for Memphis. It was a bad look for Shelby County. It was a bad look for African Americans as a whole. You know, just understanding that this is the blackest area of the United States of America, and to be able to have a board that is the makeup of majority African Americans and not be able to find a resolve in the situation. I think that it was very uncomfortable to watch and be a part of, understanding that regardless of what merit that they had for making such decision, the way that it went about it was just distasteful. And it showed that as adults, we have an issue with conflict resolution and working together. And that's the part that I didn't like that our children saw. Our children saw adults that should be speaking up for them, stepping up for them, and not being able to come together and come to a resolve. And I think that was the main part, man. That should have happened. You know, my sentiments was, you know, even if you gave her another 4 months to do the work, and you came back to the public later and said that, hey, she didn't follow the rules or adhere to the guidelines that we put in place, and you brought it back before the public that you would like to terminate her, that would have eased the community. We would have felt that we were heard. And if that was the decision you was going to go with, we would have received that a lot differently than the way it was presented to the community.
You know, this whole thing about not even being in office was barely 9 months. And I mean, there is no opportunity to see what she did, if what she was trying to do was successful or anything. You know, I mean, you need at least a year for that. And what strikes me and won't leave me is the fact that 3 of the newly elected board members who hadn't even been in their seats 4 months had that kind of power to be able to influence others to be able to make this decision. And again, the public are the ones who cast the vote to put them in office in the first place. So I would think, in addition to your first bound duty, which is to do what you can to help our children to grow and develop, you basically told the public, you know what, well, we appreciate your votes, but you know what, we're going to handle this and we don't need you anymore. I mean, that had to, and you could feel the anger and the tension and the frustration in that room. Am I correct?
It's beyond the room. It was the entire building. Like you could feel it on the parking lot before you walked in the building. We just knew that it was something going on, and whatever we were doing, this was bigger than us. Like we understood that with the amount of constituents that came forth to just say that this is not what we agree with, and to have those voices fall on deaf ears, that was a hard pill for everyone to swallow. And I got to go back to us, Chip. Can I be honest with us for a second?
Absolutely.
It's us. We got to quit voting like we voting for the high school superlatives in high school. We got to understand who we put in office. And I'm not saying that all of those individuals were the wrong individuals, but when I'm watching the citizens of Memphis vote, one thing I see is we vote by name recognition, not off abilities of what the job holds you to do. And these individuals are our employees. And I want us to remember that as citizens, these individuals work for us. As much as we reverence them in various arenas, man, we send our employees to a job to represent us and never check them until it's too late.
You know, that's a very, very important point here. And now we are faced with some very critically serious decisions. The state made the announcement this morning that, they're going to take over this district. There wasn't like, well, we're looking to, we're thinking about it. No, they're filing legislation and bills to take over this board, take over the oversight of what they're supposed to do, by bringing in people that are appointed by them to oversee what is going on, in terms of the board, and basically, as they use the term, to make the current board null and void. These are elected officials. I mean, regardless of, and you laid it out perfectly, regardless of what they were actually elected to office to, but to bring in folks, to appoint folks, as they say, from Memphis and Shelby County, but the responsibility of what they do will be told to them by what goes on in Nashville. How does that sit with you?
We got a lot of mixed reviews when it comes to the state taking over. People will reference what's going on at TSU. People will reference the Achievement School District. What I'm hearing, and this is what I'm hearing, they are going to use individuals from Memphis and Shelby County. And I will say this publicly and privately, they're reaching out right now. They're reaching out to certain individuals who they know have pulses to the community, who are serious about children, and they're vetting them right now to know who those individuals are going to be. So this is something that's not just a conversation. As I explained to someone earlier, this is like watching someone at the 20-yard line running a football, and there's no one in front of them, and the next person is 30 yards behind. It's on the way. This is about to happen. It's just about when. How long is it going to take them across the goal line? And people have asked, is it even possible for the state to bring back Dr. Fagans? I'm not saying that that's off the table. I think that if she has support at the state level, and the state individuals, the comptroller supported her efforts, if everyone in the state supported her, and this is one of the things that they see this wrong, I don't see the state saying no and not bringing her back. So it's just one of those things that I hate to see that it happened like this, and it played out like this on a worldwide platform.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
So this is how Memphians are looked at on the worldwide level right now, and we got to redeem ourselves.
It's not a good look. You know, there's been a lot of conversation about recall. Recalling these individuals. I had State Representative G.A. Hardaway on my show about a week or so ago, and he is drafting a bill, a recall bill that would allow citizens to recall not just school board members, but any elected official, city or county throughout the state. I'm sort of, I guess, in the back of my mind thinking that, well, with the recent events that have happened here, that might get even more legs. But what's your take on the option, should it pass up there, to be able to recall elected officials if you're not satisfied with the job they're doing?
I think they just got rid of a superintendent for saying they didn't like the job that she did. I think that it's only fair that the people who elect them have the opportunity to do the same. I think this is what we got to realize. My grandmother always said, what you do unto others, you got to be ready for it to come back to you.
Mm.
Point blank period. These individuals are not, they're aware of what's going on. And I think the deeper question is, what political powers are at play behind all of this that made this happen? I said openly on Tuesday, the questions that I asked Dr. Fagans when the community had the opportunity to interview her. My questions were still the same. Are you a gang member? Do your sorority, your fraternity, your alliance to the Eastern Stars or Masonic orders or whatever you are, does that take precedence over the children?
Right.
Our children should be the first priority. Are you willing to shake up some of the things in central office that needed to be changed since Durell graduated from Fairleigh High School 2004? Those things needed to change. You're talking about over 20 years annotated things that we needed to make some adjustments to. Individuals been sitting in the same positions and our children not getting a better education. These things needed to change. And also understanding that when you make these decisions in a city like Memphis where the political cliques exist, understanding that you're going against the grain, being a new person, not from the city, understanding all that, she took on that charge. So I'm not upset at the job that she did. I'm upset with the response of individuals who didn't have the ability to reason. And one thing I will say is this. I think, like I told them, everybody deserves grace. I'm not ready to just cast everybody into the fire and say, to heck with everybody. I think that everybody really needs some problem-solving, conflict mediation, and resolution skills when they take on some of these positions. You have to be bipartisan and be willing to do what is best for the people and putting your own individual bias, your own individual interest to the side. And I think that there's something that needs to shake up in the city of Memphis and Shelby County.
Durell Cowan, ladies and gentlemen, giving us the truth, his truth. And, I wanted you on this show because I always appreciate you. You're a very honest, straightforward brother. You shoot from the hip, and I really respect that, and I respect you. Thanks for taking some time with me tonight, man. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Brother Chip. I appreciate it anytime, Doc.
All right, man. Take care. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You're getting some insight, and I wanted to do this both ways. I had the school board members on, and I had a prominent member of the community on to talk a little bit about this, and they shared their truth. We're going to take one final break, and when we come back, we're going to shift gears, and we're going to talk about undocumented immigrants. And the fear that they are feeling now as the new president starts to impose his will. This is Real Talk Memphis. I'm Chip. Don't go away. We're not done yet. We'll be right back.
If you like Real Talk, here's a way you can get involved. Do you have a show topic idea or suggestion? Want to be considered a guest or have a guest idea? Then send Chip a message on his Real Talk show page and you can be a part of the Real Talk experience. So as he always says, go out and tell somebody. We'll be right back.
It's real talk. It's real talk. It's real talk. It's real talk.
Church Health's Memphis plan continues its decades-long commitment serving local musicians with comprehensive health care and also tailors its focus to small business owners and the self-employed. Health care through the Memphis plan provides care in Memphis for Memphians. Related services include preventative health, optometry, dental care, and more. More information regarding availability at memphisplan.org or at 901-272-PLAN.
Get Real Talk on the TuneIn mobile app under WYXR, and he's now streaming live on Facebook. And you can also catch a rebroadcast on YouTube. Just put WYXR in the search box and hit subscribe. Now back to more Real Talk with Chip Washington.
And welcome back to Real Talk Memphis on this Monday evening. Chip with you. It's been a great show so far, and we're not done yet. President Donald Trump, one of the major campaign pledges that he said he was going to do was to, quote unquote, remove undocumented immigrants from this country. He cited, drug dealers and murderers and rapists and people from insane asylum, the whole 9 yards. Well, he has, after 1 week, he has started to do this around the country. Yesterday, almost 1,000 supposed undocumented immigrants were taken into custody by ICE. And this is now becoming a very real situation. And I wanted to talk about this tonight with someone who I've known for a while and I highly respect. He is the executive director of Latino Memphis, and I wanted to get his take on all of this. Please welcome to the show, Mauricio Calvo. My friend, it's good to see you. How you doing?
Hey, good to see you, Chip. How are you?
I'm doing okay, man. Listen, and thank you for taking some time to come on the show tonight and talk a little bit about all of this. We have a pretty healthy Hispanic population, or I guess an immigrant population here in the city of Memphis. When you heard about this, and now we're starting to actually see them busting into ICE agents and folks busting into cities, sanctuary cities and other places around this country, how concerned are you about this whole situation and what it says and what it could do in our city eventually?
Yeah, Chip. I mean, you started at the top of the, after the break, you were talking about the promise that President Trump made, that this was one of his promises to remove millions of people, right? He also promised to fix the economy. And I will tell you that you cannot fix the economy by removing people. You're actually going to make it worse. So, I will begin by pushing back on that. And also to realize that he's going to face many challenges, logistical challenges, political challenges, economic challenges, and legal challenges as he goes on this unhinged strategy. Let's not forget, removing people from the country is not a new thing. I mean, the ICE removes people from the country every single day. So, he's making this theater, this big thing that he wants to show. But this is something that happens every day. Is it worse right now? Absolutely. But it's very concerning.
Well, I heard you a couple of news stories in reference to all of this, and it is very disturbing. And I would imagine that there are many in this population who have been coming to you, have been reaching out to you, trying to get some sort of an explanation as to what this is all about, and if they really indeed should be worried. I'm hearing that across the country, parents are keeping their children out of school. I mean, people are becoming very, very concerned because we're starting to see that action unfold. I was talking with my team during the commercial, and I mean, ICE is even picking up indigenous folks, Indians. I mean, this is starting to become, and there are the checks and balances to all of this, and I don't know if there were ever any listed, Mauricio, but it doesn't seem like that is even happening right now. Am I right about that?
You're right. I mean, I cannot attest about every tactic, but we have seen that we're only day 7. This particular administration is really pushing the limits and is really testing how far the executive power can go. And this is a test not only about the immigration system, this is a test and an attack on our democracy, because the moment that we have an executive, a king who can pretty much do whatever he or she wants, things are going to go bad, not only for immigrants, but for the entire country. So I think this is a reminder that people need to really press on Congress and say, hey, where are the checks and balances on this? To your point, we are concerned that many of these tactics will have racial profiling, implications. This is not the first time this happens. In the 1930s, there was something called the Mexican Repatriation Act during the Depression, where over 1 million Latinos, particularly Mexicans, were sent back to Mexico. And as I sent back, many of them were American citizens without due process, without asking people who they were. And I think this is where some of these folks are getting some ideas.
One of the things that was very shocking to me initially, and again, it talks about, you mentioned this king-like attitude and this overreach, was denying individuals who were born in this country birthright citizenship. When you're, and that's a constitutional issue from what I understand, that if you're born in the United States of America, you are an American citizen, even though you might have been born to an undocumented immigrant. I wanted to get your take on even the mere suggestion of trying to do something like that.
I mean, of course, presidents are powerful, but they're not, they have checks and balances. And I'm glad to hear that there was an immediate stop from a judge. And we hope that this is going to be a long-term battle. But I mean, think about this. Think about the millions of people who are in this country who are children of immigrants, documented or undocumented, that are serving our country and our troops, that are law enforcement officers, that are teaching, that are nurses. This is so un-American. This country was built because we brought slaves and immigrants came, and this attitude that we are turning our backs on the people who have built this country is not new. You have seen it. Like we know that this is the history of this country.
Sure.
But we will have hope. By now we're moving forward. We're not doing that again. I mean, it's hypocrisy at its best. These are the people who are contributing to the economy, to tax base. They are people who, with their hands, are cleaning, building, and doing everything around our economy. And we just cannot do that to people. That is inhumane.
What do you tell your folks? So what do you tell the Hispanic population around here? And there's so many other cultures from so many other countries that have immigrated here as well. But what are you telling them? What is your message to them during this very I would say scary time, because you never know. You can turn around twice, man. Somebody's knocking at your door and you don't know what's going on. And next thing you know, you may be even snatched from your home. But what are you telling your folks?
Yeah, Chip, I mean, a lot, right? So first of all, I want to acknowledge that it's just not only me doing this. There are a number of organizations and activists and people across sectors doing a lot of great work.
Sure.
In the case of Latino Memphis, we have launched a campaign that is called ¿Qué pasa si pasa? What happens if it happens? And we're talking to the community to have very candid conversations among themselves. You mentioned one of them. What happens if mom or dad do not come back home from work today? What is going to happen to those children? What is going to happen to your assets? What is going to happen to what you have built in this country? It is beyond understanding that in 2025, we have to have these conversations. But this is a thing that people need to prepare, because it can happen at any given point. As you mentioned, we saw that happening over 1,000 times in the last 5 days. It's just a matter of time when it comes to Memphis. So we're telling that. We're also working with our partners, other nonprofits and government agencies, to help them understand their rights, because people in this country without documents, U.S. citizens and not U.S. citizens, have rights under the Constitution. So people need to understand that only with a judicial order, thanks to the Fourth Amendment, can be searched and can be taken away, right? So now some of these things, we saw that was not happening during Trump 1.0, and we're concerned that it could those civil rights could be violated this time too. And now that some inspector generals and some of these checks and balances are being taken away, we're very concerned about that this will be an unhinged, law enforcement actions across the board.
Listen, man, I really thank you for coming on the show. This is something that really people need to pay attention to very closely because it's real and it is happening in various cities around our country. If you don't mind, I want to stay close to you in reference to all of this. And if there's something that you feel that needs to be said in reference to this, you have an open invitation. You know how to reach me. You have an open invitation to this show anytime, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Washington. Thanks.
Right. Appreciate it, man. Thanks. All right, here you go, ladies and gentlemen. And that wraps up a very interesting show tonight. I am very, really thankful to all my folks, all my guests who showed up this evening and had a lot to say. As Bryn plays us out, there's a lot for us to pay attention to, not only locally, domestically, but you need to pay attention to what's happening in the greater picture of things out here in this country, because there's a lot going on right now, and not all of it's good. But I want to thank all my guests tonight. I want to thank Michelle McKissack and Amber Huett-Garcia. I want to thank Kay, Durell, Cowan, and my good friend Mauricio Calvo for taking time to stop off and give us some great information. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did not catch it live, you can, when the show posts as a podcast, you can listen to it on any podcast platform in the country. Also, if you want to see what you missed tonight, go to my Facebook page. The show is live streamed tonight, and catch it as well. We have power. We have a voice. All we need to do is use it, because eventually somebody's going to listen. So thank you for being a part of what we do each and every Monday night, and for all of us here, for lovely Lola, for Bryn, and for yours truly. Thank you, Memphis, for being a part of this broadcast. And until next time, be safe, be careful, and we are out.